Hello everyone and welcome to 19th episode of Personal Development Training Series. My name is Mohammad Reza Fathi and I'm a life coach. What we do in life echoes in eternity. I guarantee you that your life is going to be separated to before and after personal development training. This episode follows the previous episode, which was about delaying our actions. This part is about relationships. Relationships rarely collapse overnight. Very few people woke up one morning and calmly said, "It's over. I don't feel anything anymore." Long before that moment arrives, a quiet process has already unfolded. A subtle path has been walked. A path made not of dramatic events, but of small distances that slowly grew. We often assume that relationships end because of betrayal, or because of one explosive argument, or perhaps because someone makes a major mistake that changes everything. But in reality, as you have witnessed yourself, most relationships cool down in much quieter ways. They weaken through missed moments, through partial presence, through the repeated phrase, "not right now." Imagine it's 8 p.m. You've been out since early morning. Maybe your day was filled with meetings, deadlines, shift work, client calls, or deliveries. The commute to home drained what little energy you had left. Traffic, crowded trains, endless notifications. Somewhere in between tasks, you checked your bank balance. You mentally calculated the mortgage or rent, childcare costs, insurance payments, groceries that seem more expensive every month. Another alert reminds you that a bill is due. And finally, you walk through your front door. Your partner says, "We should talk about expenses this month." Or maybe, "Something happened today that really upset me." Your child runs toward you and asks, "Can you come see what I made?" You are genuinely tired. Not distant, not indifferent, not uncaring, simply tired. In a way that feels physical and mental at the same time. So you answer gently, "Can we talk in a little while? Like further in few days?" Or, "My head seems full right now. Let's talk about it tomorrow when I have more energy." No one argues. Your partner nods. Your child slowly walks back to their room. And the conversation gets postponed, as always. Everything seems reasonable, logical, and understandable. But when this later becomes a repeated pattern, something begins to shift. Relationships rarely fade because of open disrespect. More often, they fade because of quiet reprioritization. When someone repeatedly experiences that there is always something more urgent than listening to them, a deadline, exhaustion, financial pressure, work, another distraction, so they adapt. They begin to share less, they shorten their explanations, they stop insisting on being heard. This is not rebellion, this is just adjustment. People learn, often unconsciously. They learn how much space and value they occupy in someone else's life. In today's Western world, financial and practical pressure is real. Even in relatively stable systems, couples often feel less romantic partners and more like co managers of logistics. School costs, healthcare decisions, housing payments, retirement planning, support for aging parents, career uncertainty, and other things, and the constant sense that stability must be maintained. Mental energy becomes limited, attention becomes fragmented, When most of your energy is directed towards survival and responsibility, the relationship can quietly move into suspension mode. You tell yourself, let's just get through this busy season. After this promotion, once things calm down, we'll reconnect properly. But life rarely settles in the way we expect. If one stressor decreases, another appears. Responsibilities evolve and demands shift. The calendar never truly becomes empty. As a result, later never receives a date. Now, there is another form of silent distance that is even more complex: distance from your own family. I'm not talking about your partner, spouse, or friends. I'm talking about your parents and siblings, the people who were present long before your adult responsibilities began. Maybe your mother says, "We haven't really talked in a while." You usually respond, "I know. It's been busy. I'll call this weekend." Your father wants to discuss something important, perhaps about his health or retirement, and you answer, "I'm swamped right now. I'm overwhelmed. Let's talk soon." Your sister sends a message and says, "I'm not doing great today." You see it? You decide to reply later. It isn't a lack of love, it's mental fatigue, emotional overload. It's the quiet assumption that there will always be more time. Family relationships often carry the belief or assumption of permanence. They have always existed and they feel rooted. So, unconsciously, they move lower on the priority list. Career comes first, financial obligations come second, third comes immediate responsibilities, and our personal life. Family receives what remains. In Western culture, there can also be layers of expectation within family dynamics. Questions about marriage, children, career choices, relocation, and financial support. To avoid uncomfortable conversations, distance can feel easier. Calls become shorter, visits less frequent, and topics more superficial and surface level. You tell yourself, "I just don't have the energy for that discussion." However, when avoidance replaces clarity, misunderstanding grows. A parent may interpret distance as disinterest. A sibling might interpret silence as withdrawal. Meanwhile, you're just simply overwhelmed. Postponement does not apply only to pleasant conversations, it also affects difficult ones. A small resentment toward your partner, a feeling of being overlooked, the quiet sting of comparison. You think, "This is not the right time." They're already stressed. Bringing this up will just create conflict. So you remain silent. At first, silence appears mature and controlled, but repeated silence gradually transforms into distance. Unspoken emotions do not disappear, they settle beneath the surface. Over time, the accumulated weight of those unexpressed thoughts can feel heavier than the original issue itself. Then another subtle form of distance appears in the quality of attention. You sit next to each other while both scrolling on your phones. A conversation unfolds while part of your mind calculates expenses. Your child shares a long story and you nod, but you are only partially listening and present. None of these moments are catastrophic. Yet, repetition sends an unspoken message. Something else matters more than you right now. Relationships are shaped by these invisible signals. And there is something deeper underneath all of these. When the outside world feels unstable or demanding, you need emotional safety more than ever. So does your partner and family. For many people, that safety is supposed to exist within those close and family relationships. But if connections keep being postponed there as well, loneliness intensifies, even when you are not physically alone. That's where the loneliness comes from. It's not about being alone, it's about the quality of relationship. You may sit next to your partner and family and still feel lonely. You may spend time with your family and still withhold your real thoughts. This kind of loneliness does not announce itself loudly, it develops quietly through repeated small postponements. Relationships rarely end because of a single mistake. More often, they weaken through accumulated absence, through delayed conversations, postponed vulnerability, habitual, not now. Eventually, speaking openly feels unfamiliar, not because there is nothing to discuss, but because silence has become the norm. Action is not limited to grand gestures. Being fully present is an action. Listening with attention is an action. Setting boundaries respectfully is an action. Saying, "This matters to me," is an action. Now, avoiding all of these is also a form of action. When you choose not to speak, not to listen, or to continually postpone, this is some sort of action. You are still shaping a result, slowly, quietly, whether you know it or not. You see, your actions and their consequences are circling around in your life and in your future destiny. You may not be able to remove financial pressure. You may not be able to reduce your workload, or you may not be able to control external instability, but you can pause long enough to ask yourself an honest question. Is this truly not the right time? Or am I avoiding discomfort? Some distances begin with a 5-minute conversation that never took place. Once distance becomes habitual, closing that gap requires far more effort than it would have taken to prevent it. If episode 1 explored drifting away from yourself, this episode explores drifting away from the people who matter most. Both patterns share the same root: later. But the deeper question still remains: why do we postpone so easily? What is the hidden cause behind that word? And that is where episode 3 begins. What we do in life echoes in eternity.